Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your response. I will now call to order the regular scheduled Apex Town Council meeting for Tuesday, January 28, 2025. I'm so glad you're here. I would also like to welcome those who are joining us on live stream via YouTube. And before we get started tonight, as we do with every council meeting, we're going to have an invocation. But tonight, we're going to have a presentation by a very special young lady, Safika Santosh. She's going to come up and do a presentation about the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. As you already said, my name is Satvika Santosh, and I'm here to recite my essay that I wrote about Martin Luther King and how he has impacted my life specifically. Let's start with the quote. Martin Luther King once said, "We choose nonviolence because our goal is to create a peaceful community. We'll try to convince others with our words, but if they don't work, we'll use our actions instead." This idea shows us that real change is possible without violence. It made me think about how I handle conflict in my daily life. The idea of persuading with words, and if that doesn't work, using actions really stands out. Words can inspire and bring people together, but when they don't work, peaceful actions can still show commitment to justice. Martin Luther King's protests during the Civil Rights Movement are a great example of this. Through marches, sit-ins, and boycotts, people demanded change without hurting anyone. These actions built understanding and unity. In the 3rd grade, a girl in my class was teased with names like Brownie and Chicken Legs. It may have not seemed like a big deal to others at the time, but I could see how much it hurt her. As she was about to lose her temper, I tapped her on the shoulder and let her know that it's okay to calm down. I talked to the guy who was doing the bullying and was like, "It just shows your insecurities. You're not really getting anything else out of this." We went and talked to the teachers, and he genuinely apologized, and things were better after that. In my own life, apart from this, nonviolence means responding to problems with understanding and creativity. For example, I noticed in our local community that there was a lot of technology piling up. So instead of just sitting there, I brought together family and friends and organized a technology drive to donate and recycle unused devices. I got friends and family involved. This simple action brought people together and helped the environment. It showed me how small acts of kindness can lead to big changes. Let's talk about the last part of the quote, when it says, "We'll try to persuade with our words, but if words fail, we'll try to persuade with our acts." This applies to my life as well. For example, when I was trying to make the starting lineup for my basketball team, I had a lot to prove. I talked to my coach respectfully, asking for feedback, but I could tell that my words couldn't change his mind entirely. So that's when I realized my actions needed to do the talking. I started pushing myself harder in and out of practice. I started showing up early and giving my 110% every single time I stepped on that court. I earned my spot in the starting lineup. It showed me how actions, backed up by persistence and focus, can break through even the toughest judgments. In the end, nonviolence is about not just solving problems. It's about creating a world where peace is normal. It's about seeing the humanity in people and others and working together for a better future. Whether through words, actions that inspire, nonviolence challenges us to rise above. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. So beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us tonight and giving us that presentation. We'll move now to, if you wouldn't mind, join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. We're now moved to our consent agenda. All consent agenda items are considered routine to be enacted by one motion with the adoption of the consent agenda and without discussion. If a council member requests discussion of an item, the item may be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, motion to approve,
Second.
Zigerman. Second, Mahaffey. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, passed unanimously. We'll move now, setting a regular meeting agenda. You have the meeting agenda in front of you. Is everybody in agreement with the meeting agenda? If so, can I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
I thought we were moving up the manager updates.
Okay, you want to do that first before approving the agenda? Okay.
Okay.
All right, what-
Approve the agenda with the manager.
that's correct.
So yeah, motion is to,
That's, yeah, thank you.
All right. Everybody got it?
Yes.
All right, we good. Okay. All right, motion Zigerman. Second.
Second.
I'll give it to you, Mayor Pro Tem. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Manager Vosberg, manager report.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to a crowded room as well.
Sir.
Appreciate that. I do have a few items for your consideration. First, I believe he's in the back of the room. Oh, he's over here. Our new police chief, Ryan Johansson, has started. So officially yesterday was his first day. So just wanted to recognize him and welcome him. I will stick with the PD theme here for a couple seconds too, because there's been a lot of discussion and some visibility on some criminal activity lately within Apex. So wanted to talk about that. Some of it has been related to vehicle break-ins. I can assure council and the community that we are looking at different strategies as it relates to vehicle break-ins, so I won't go into those details. But I do want to take a moment to reinforce the messaging that we are putting on social media. I believe there was a post today through our police department that reiterates soft targets. And the biggest thing that we can do to help prevent vehicle break-ins is, number one, locking your vehicle, and number two, not leaving valuables in plain sight. The post that was put up by PD also made reference to firearms being taken out of some of those vehicles. So we can't emphasize enough how important it is to remove valuables, especially firearms, from your vehicles. Because now those are tools that can potentially be used in crime. And so that's an issue, but the number one defense against it is locking your vehicles. We know there's some discussion about different technology tools that are being used in the community. We are working through that, and there's a lot of talk about that nationwide on how you can combat that, and there's some options that you can get on the private market to block signals and do all of that. So more to come on that front, but right now we are definitely emphasizing lock your vehicles at night and take valuables out at night and don't leave them in plain sight. So I wanted to mention that. Yes,
Is your
sir.
mic on?
Yes.
Okay.
Should be. Maybe I'll move it a little closer. The second item, there was an incident at the Walmart today in Apex, and I do want to throw a shout out to our PD. They did some great work in surrounding around that incident and were able to make 2 arrests related to that incident in Walmart. So that was a big deal. They mobilized and a lot of great work there. So I want to send a shout out to our police department for the work that was done there. Moving on to other items, maybe not pleasant, I want to briefly talk about the recent federal grant issue that's come out from the Trump administration. I believe breaking news, there was a halt put on that about an hour or so ago from a federal judge. So we're still working through some of the ramifications. From our perspective right now, the biggest threat as it relates to grant dollars from the federal government would be on some of our road projects. I'll be honest, right now we don't know the full implications because some of the money's been committed. It is a pass-through that typically will come to the state. So whether the state physically has that money yet or not is important, and we just don't have those answers. But it's something we definitely need to be mindful of. I'll tell you, even our Peakway extension project, like $12.5 million of that is somewhat tied to federal dollars. So we're hopeful that those dollars have already been allocated and are on hand, but we don't have answers yet on that. And that still has a lot of potential litigation ahead outside of Apex, but something we need to be mindful of and definitely brief you all on. And the last, this is good news, so I will end with good news. You've seen the article on this, but the Carolina Hurricanes partnered with us. It was in the media, I think, recently. We're hoping for a spring opening of the street hockey here in Apex. That's something awesome that's been brought to our community, and it's through a great partnership with Apex. Kudos to our Parks and Recreation staff for working through that. but we're looking somewhere into March, beginning of April, for that to be kicking off. So that's something to be excited about. And that is all that I have.
All right, thank you so much. All right. All right, we'll move now to presentations. And tonight, we're extremely proud to recognize Black History Month, February 2025. And as with every year, we do a proclamation, and council members, if you would please join me in the reading of the proclamation. We have many people in attendance tonight to present the proclamation to, so we'll recognize you accordingly. All right, again, Black History Month 2025, from the Office of the Mayor. Tonight, we will be reading the proclamation in unity, and kicking us off tonight will be Councilmember Terry Mack. Okay, I'm sorry, I had the back. I had the wrong name. They do look alike, but we'll approach him great, so thank you.
The other ball. My pleasure to start this off. Whereas the town of Apex recognizes and honors the rich cultural heritage and significant achievements of Black Americans and individuals of African descent, whose legacies have profoundly shaped our own town, state, and nation. And whereas Black History Month, observed annually in February, offers an opportunity to reflect on the contributions, sacrifices, and enduring impact of Black Americans in all aspects of society, including civil rights, science, education, arts, business, and public service. The first celebration of Black history dates back to the early 100 years to 1926, which Carter G. Woodson sought to celebrate and honor the Black Americans who have helped create the country that we have today, despite the immense mistreatment they have endured throughout history. And
whereas the town of Apex acknowledges that Black history is American history, and it is vital to ensure that the stories and experiences of Black Americans are remembered, honored, and shared as an essential part of our collective identity. And whereas Apex has deep roots in Black history, as many influential Black individuals helped to shape our town. Clarice Atwater was the first Black female commissioner to serve on the town's Board of Commissioners from 1981 through 1993. Waylon Matthews was the first Black business owner to own and operate a business in downtown Apex. And John Wayne Beckwith became the first Black police officer to serve in the Apex Police Department. And
Okay. Whereas other prominent Black individuals, maybe it's too loud now, right? Whereas other prominent Black individuals in Apex's history include Sarah and Reverend William Davis, who were considered voices of hope for the Black community in Apex, and Abraham and Corinna Justice, who developed their land in order to provide homes for the Black community in what became known as Justice Heights, so named in honor of their generosity and selflessness. These individuals, among countless others, helped pave the way for future generations to be comprised of leaders from all races and backgrounds in our town. And
whereas our town is home to several historically Black churches that have served Apex and our community of people in numerous ways, including Christian Home Christian Church, St. Mary's AME Church, and Apex First Baptist Church. These churches have served as a safe place to worship, pray, and be a beacon of hope of many believers over the years. And whereas the town of Apex is incredibly proud of its Black community leaders, many of whom have come together to bring significant celebrations of Black history and culture to Apex, such as the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day Committee and the Juneteenth Committee. These celebrations bring Apex together and enhance our historical and cultural understanding. And
whereas throughout a month, the town will celebrate Black History Month with educational programs and cultural events to honor the past, inspire the present, and build a future that reflects the ideals of justice, equality, and opportunity for all. And whereas, while progress still remains in the journey for this future, The town of Apex is committed to doing its part in lifting up individuals and organizations who seek to advocate and fight for advancements toward racial equality in our nation.
Now therefore, I, Jacques K. Gilbert, Mayor of Apex, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2025 Black History Month in the town of Apex, and encourage residents to remain open-minded in learning more about Black history and join me in committing a more inclusive future for all in our town and beyond. Signed this 28th day of January 2025. Thank you for that. And we'll go ahead and make presentations to several people who are here tonight. Many, I would say, classified as VIPs. Many of you, I had the honor and pleasure of knowing well before I became mayor. Some of you helped take care of me in my neighborhood, Justice Heights. I won't go any further on that because I was a good boy. I didn't get in trouble, so. But anyways, I want to recognize many people here tonight. So we'll start off tonight on behalf of Clarice Atwater, which you heard about, former commissioner, the first Black commissioner here in the town of Apex. I would like to welcome up Phyllis Daniel, the daughter-in-law of Ms. Clarice Atwater. You would come on up. Yes. Stand beside me and smile at you. All right. Accept this proclamation on behalf of the town of Apex. Yes, it is. Thank you so much. On behalf of Waylon Matthews, I would like to invite up Karen Lee, Andre Matthews, and Cheryl Robinson. If you would please come up and accept the proclamation. Thank you, sir. That's nice.
Thanks for being here.
Okay, Karen, you can stand in the middle, all you guys in the middle right here. We'll take a picture together. So if you would hold this side. Hold this side.
All right, this way.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
On behalf of John Wayne Beckwith, Mr. Pender Beckwith Jr., if you would please come up and accept the proclamation. Okay, on behalf of Sarah and Reverend William Y. Davis, Ms. Kim Davis, their daughter. Is she here tonight? All right. On behalf of Abraham and Karina Justice, we have Merle Morrison and Bercelyn Holmes, great niece, if you would come up. On behalf of Christian Home Christian Church, Reverend Dr. George Green. All right.
I'm not Dr. Green, but I'm accepting on behalf
Okay,
of
that's
our
fine.
pastor,
All right.
Reverend Dr. George Michael.
Thank you so much for being here. Come on up. Good to see you. All right. God bless you. All right, on behalf of St. Mary AME Church, Reverend Dr. Sequoia Dawson. Thank you. We have none other than the man. I'm going to buy him a pair of gold shoes. I want y'all to know that. Reverend Dr. Franklin McLean and the First Lady. Are you coming up also? Elisa McLean, please come up. All right. Good to see you. God bless you. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you, brother. One day, I got your toes. On behalf of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Commemoration Weekend Committee, Ms. Taylor Dessy.
Every time you move it.
And last but not least, on behalf of the Apex Juneteenth Committee, Mr. TJ Evans, number 3, come on up. Oh, and Calabria and Croy, come on up. I love you.
Got to say a few words, right? I just wanted to, well, first, my name is TJ Evans. Like they mentioned, I have the pleasure of running the Juneteenth Festival here in downtown Apex. But as I got here, I just wanted to share something that was on my heart. And for me, I wanted to reiterate what the proclamation states, and that's Black history is our history, yes, but it's your history too. It's American history, the good, the bad, and everything in between. But the beautiful thing about history is that it allows us an opportunity to put ourselves in each other's shoes, right? And it also, when we do that, it provides an opportunity for empathy. And empathy can at times echo an understanding that we're one nation under God. And I know in times after presidential elections, there's sometimes feelings of weariness, of the unknown, but one truth that we can always hold to is that we're better together. In that despite our religious beliefs, our political beliefs, it's important that we never lose sight of that. And that we allow our history to be the driving force that brings us together versus pulling us apart. Fortunately for us, we live in a community here called Apex that has a rich amount of Black history, dating all the way back to the 1800s, where Apex was a part of a free person of color community 200 years before the Civil War, a community that we now know today as Friendship. One other fact I'll give you is that in the middle 1900s, the demographic of Apex was close to 50% Black and 50% white. There were prominent Black communities here in Apex called the WAPS community, the Low End community, Frogtown, and Friendship, as I've already mentioned, right? And so I share these things to share that, when we talk about Black history, it's not just a national thing, but we have things right here in our backyard that's important to note. And so I'm just very grateful to have had the opportunity to learn these things from historians around here, Larry Harris, Warren Holloman, Doris Battle, and Pat Smith, just to name a few. But I also wanted to shout out Karen Cox from the town of Apex really quick, because she's done an amazing job with capturing all this information and putting it on a landing page for the community to enjoy. I do think there's an opportunity, with Black History Month coming up and beyond, to maybe increase the foot traffic or the awareness of this landing page. But nonetheless, it's there for us to educate ourselves. And one quick plug, a lot of this information and more will be shared at our Juneteenth Festival that we'll have on a Saturday, June 21st, from 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. here in Town Hall campus. I had to throw a quick plug in for Juneteenth, but I'll get out of your ear now. I just want to leave you with this one last thing, and that's it's important and pivotal that not only do we educate ourselves in our history, but that we tell one another about it so that we understand that the best way forward is together. Thank you. God bless.
As you can see, scrolling on the video, the presentation here are more captured Black history facts here. Of course, we want to capture everything, but there's limited time. But again, as TJ mentioned, a lot of that will be captured in the Juneteenth presentations, and of course, here at the Town of Apex during Black History Month. So thank you for all of you, those who joined us tonight, and I appreciate you, colleagues, for joining me on the presentation. All right, thank you so much. All right, move on now to public forum. This is an opportunity for community members to speak. This is your opportunity to share anything you would like to. Suggestions, recommendations, And please be mindful of the time limit. You have 3 minutes, unless you have 4 more people, and you get 9 minutes. So we'll go ahead and get into the public forum tonight. We'll start with Caden Evans. Would please come up. Also, I want to remind you to give your name and address for the record.
My name is Caden. I live at 555 Metro Station. Caden Evans.
There you go.
Photographer.
Yeah, I'll restate it. My name is Caden Evans. I live at 555 Metro Station, proud resident of Apex. Good evening, members of the council. Imagine this. You're a high school student sitting in class wondering what your future looks like. You want more for yourself, but no one has told you how to get there. Your parents didn't go to college. Your friends aren't talking about college. Your counselors are too busy to guide you. This is the reality for countless first-generation students in Apex. Studies show these students are far more likely to question whether college is worth it because they lack exposure to higher education. Now listen, I'm not one of these students. I've had every opportunity to both plan and think about my future, but I stand here today for them because they need a voice, and we as a community have the power to change their lives. At Apex High, many first-generation students feel college is out of reach. Why? First, they don't have the support that others get at home. Research shows first-generation students are far less likely to have parents who can guide them through the college process. Second, counselors are stretched too thin. The recommended ratio is 1 counselor per 250 students, but at Apex High, it's approaching 1 to 400. Students with involved parents push for help and get it, but first-generation students don't even know where to start. Take Malachi. He grew up in low-income housing with a single mom. No one told him college was an option. He got a minimum wage job thinking that was enough. Malachi didn't see college as a pathway because no one showed him the way. His story is not unique. These students are not unreachable, they're merely overlooked. We don't have to accept this. Apex can lead the way in supporting first-generation students. Start with scholarships to make college more accessible. Even small scholarships significantly boost enrollment and graduation rates. Partner with local businesses to sponsor mentorship and internships. Mentorship builds confidence and shows these students what's possible. Educate parents. When parents understand financial aid and college timelines, their children are far more likely to attend. Advocate for policies guaranteeing regular, personalized college counseling starting freshman year. Early intervention makes all the difference. Finally, raise awareness. Let Apex be a town that says, we do not just care about education, we act on it. Before I close, I want to thank Councilmember Terry Mahaffey for opening a database to check if votes were stolen in the North Carolina Supreme Court race by Jefferson Griffin. Trust in our democracy matters. Right now, there are students in Apex who do not believe college is for them. They don't see themselves walking across a campus or building a future beyond the limits of what they have known. But we can change that. The question I leave you with is, will you take action? Will you invest in these students, in their dreams, and in the future of Apex? We don't just need to care, we need to act. Scholarships, mentorships, awareness, these are lifelines. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mary Staudemeyer. Right here, City Clerk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry about the microphone tonight. It's just been.
Give me a new one.
Yeah.
I blame the photographer.
There you go.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Mary Stottlemyre. I live at 1305 Edwards Pond Court. Thank you for having me this evening. I'm here to raise a concern regarding pedestrian safety on Chatham Street, particularly in the stretch that runs parallel to Bauckham Elementary School and other local establishments. As many of you are aware, Chatham Street has a posted speed limit of 25 miles per hour, but I want to specifically draw attention, per the map, to the approximately half-mile stretch from the Summit 501 apartments to the intersection with Hunter Street. This is the only section of Chatham Street where the speed limit is 35 miles per hour. On this short stretch, there are 6 residences with direct ingress and egress to Chatham Street, which poses additional traffic and pedestrian safety concerns. I walk Chatham Street every day with neighbors, pets, and a soon-to-be new Apex resident. The majority of days, I go opposite of what Dr. King would have proposed, which is to act before speaking, here I am though, by telling people to slow down with my hand, something my mom used to do and really, really embarrassed me, but here we are. The majority of days, there are more than one cars that need to slow down, and just by estimate, the average speed limit would probably be closer to 45 miles per hour on the cars. It's a lot like a Hot Wheels track where you go down the hill, pick up speed, and then continue to accelerate back up. Given these factors, I'm respectfully requesting that Town Council consider 3 potential actions. 1, reduce the speed limit on this section of Chatham Street to be consistent with the rest at 25 miles per hour. 2, install or consider installing flashing speed limit signs across this stretch of Chatham Street. These signs will alert drivers to the speed limit and increase their awareness of the presence of pedestrians, especially near residential areas and the Muse Art School. Conduct a speed study on this stretch of Chatham Street to assess the actual driving speeds and traffic patterns. This will help us to understand the current risks and guide decisions on the most effective measures to improve safety. The combination of these measures will make a meaningful difference in improving safety for pedestrians, residents, and drivers alike in this important part of our community. Thank you for your time and consideration. I strongly urge you to take action on this issue and help make our streets safer for all. Thank you.
Thank you for speaking tonight. Don Cozzolino.
Sure. Dawn Casalino, 3632 Bosco Road. Good evening, Mayor and Town Council. So Alan's handing out some literature, and what I wanted to talk about tonight was safety. I saw in the consent agendas that there was a lot of grants for cybersecurity and for fire department and police department grants. So I think that's a great investment in, you know, given the uncertain age that we live in with technology especially. So I'm really interested to get a readout of actions for safety issues in the town of Apex. I provided the handout and just wanted to kind of flip through for folks the most recent things that are happening. Now, this might not be just Apex, but it's our community at large. So yesterday, a tractor trailer hit a utility pole in downtown Raleigh. It went on the sidewalk there, as you can see. I talked about the vandalism last time to New Hill Community Duke Energy. 124 households went without power because of that. There was actually an incident a couple of days ago in Fayetteville. This was, let's see, 145 outages. And again, this was due to the outage was caused by a vehicle damaging our equipment. And then, you know, a couple of other things going on. The data breach with Wake County Public School System. So this actually happened in December, but we didn't really hear about it until recently, like mid-month this month. And it was former and current students and faculty and staff. So a lot of their sensitive information was exposed, personal information, social security numbers. So I hope that's looked into, because that sounds like a pretty serious threat as well. And then there was also a strange threat, and it's kind of not even like technology, but sort of is the last one is on the realtor who almost sold a property in Apex out to a scam artist. So these are like new threats, different threats, things that are coming in all directions. So I just ask that there's a plan, an action, and quick response, and how your council comes with actions to address all these different safety issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Alexis Kennedy.
Alexis Kennedy, 106 Buckhaven Court. Good evening, council members. Someone came to city council last meeting and tried to dictate what can and cannot be discussed in city council, not understanding my message or reasoning. And I guess I will clear the air. To the ones that may be confused, my purpose for coming here for a year now is for this dollar in my hand. This dollar dictates my actions. This dollar dictates all of our actions here. It funds our projects for new parks, new hockey rinks, money funding for our firefighters, our bus drivers, our new street projects, or even second breakfast that's offered to our high school students so they can better function when learning. Now, this single dollar doesn't have much power on its own, but when pulled together, it can do a lot for good or for bad. I come to City Council because I want to inform my community as to what this dollar is doing right now. Now, if you knew this dollar was going to be used to pay for a bullet to kill a child in our town, what would your answer be? I'm assuming every person here would say no. What about the next town? I'm thinking no. Now let's make this a bit further. I'm gonna make this a child in California. It's not in our community, and we most likely aren't gonna be affected. What's your answer? Still gonna be no. Now we know that that's where we all stand. I'll ask another hypothetical question. What if you know that this dollar is going to be used to kill a child in Palestine? What is your answer now? Does distance make us less guilty? San Francisco is 3,000 miles away. Palestine is only 6,000 miles away. Our dollars, our taxes. And we can't deny it's our money. But a North Carolinian living here in Raleigh, a veteran I greatly respect named Matthew Ho said something very profound last night. The only thing we as Americans are not doing is physically dropping the bombs in Palestine. We as United citizens, as Apex residents, are part of it. Our military is there. We're funding it. It's all connected from here all the way across the sea. And as a reminder, today is the 1-year anniversary of the killing of 5-year-old Hind Rajab, her family, and the 2 paramedics, where an Israeli tank unloaded 335 rounds into her vehicle. Our dollars did that to an innocent 5-year-old child. And if this dollar is too much to unalive a child here, then $23 billion is a crime against humanity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. Elizabeth Stitt.
Elizabeth Ray Stitt, 3113 Friendship Road. Can I just start and say traffic was really, really bad tonight. We've got to do something about this. It should not take me 35 minutes from Friendship to get into town, but it did. I really wanted to talk about the town council voting to dissolve, is the official word, tree cap. If we are supposed to prioritize trees and you disband the one group that you have as a part of the town to provide guidance on how we can set standards or how we can replant trees or how we can save trees, if trees are important, why would you disband the group? I understand that you also dissolved the Bee City group and you have set aside that one position to represent both of those groups is going to sit on the EAB. I understand that. But really one person, as much as we see on social media about trees, to have one person in our community showing, and I see, Terry, you're shaking your head, but I have read the actual memo that was sent out to the people who were on that committee. They were quite upset that the group was dissolved. And the word dissolved was used. I'm happy to forward the email. It said dissolve, and one person would be put on EAB. We have to avoid getting rid of our trees. The 2018 stormwater study that Apex did said your #1 way of solving stormwater issues is planting trees because they drink up so much water. The number one way to avoid heat islands and bring down the cost of heating a home or cooling a home is planting trees. But if you walk through and drive through the newest subdivisions that are being built, there's no room between the road and the sidewalk, or the sidewalk in the front of the house, or in the little backyard for a tree to be planted. So we all know from the 2023 tree canopy study, Town Council never came out with a response as to what are we doing in Apex about losing trees. We lost more trees quicker than any other community, and I haven't seen anything in the last year and a half that says, hey, here are the actionable steps that we are going to take to change the course. Instead, what I saw is tree cap get disbanded. So Terry, I'll be more than happy to forward the email that went out to folks. That's the words that were used. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stett. All right, that was the last speaker signed up tonight, so we'll go ahead and close public forum again. Thank you for all who came in to present during public forum. So we'll move now into public hearings. We'll start with public hearing number 1, fiscal year 2025-26 annual operating budget, presented tonight by Amanda Grogan, Budget Performance Management Director.
Hey, good evening, everybody. We are starting our FY26 budget season. So historically, what we've done is we've added this public hearing to give people an opportunity to provide feedback prior to really get into the thick of our budget season. So one thing that we've got going on is the Budget Priorities Survey, which will close on Monday, February 3rd. So if you haven't had a chance to take the survey, I encourage everyone in the audience to do so. We'll make sure and report those results back out to you guys at your annual retreat, along with the results of your CIP evaluation. So as always, you're able to provide comments, feedback, and questions through annual.budget@apexnc.org as well. I'm sure there's a long list. Is there a long list of speakers?
Not one.
Ms. Stitt, you let me down. I would have put money on it. So.
I felt like I was taking too many minutes tonight, but I do have something.
You have your time later. Okay. All right, is that it?
That's it.
All right, any questions from council?
Ms. Rogan, what's the best way for people to reach that survey?
It's linked through on our website on the homepage.
On the homepage? Okay.
Correct. And I know Communications has plans to do a final push this week as well.
Okay. Thanks.
So, anything else?
All right, any other questions?
So after this initial survey, will there be other opportunities for public input?
So people will always be able to provide input, feedback, questions, concerns through the annual budget email address that's sent to you guys as well. We kind of compile those and send those and/or to different staff to get additional information to respond to questions. So when we do this, we'll do the overlay of the staff scoring of capital projects and then council's scoring, and then also present the budget priorities survey from the public. And we're actually working on a really cool interactive dashboard for you guys this year.
Okay. Just, since this is kind of a request for information from the public, could you help us, kind of walk us quickly through the timeline of setting the budget for next fiscal year, and when, at what point public engagement is possible beyond today's meeting?
I can. So budget requests are due from the departments March 1st. So we'll start doing baseline projections. The budget will actually be distributed to town council on April 15th, and then we'll start committee meetings. And you'll have to correct me here because I believe it's the 24th and 26th.
Correct.
24th and 26th of April for Finance Committee that's open to the public. We'll have our budget workshop for town council May 8th. And then the public hearing on the proposed budget, May 27th. We potentially may adopt the budget if council chooses to do so on May 27th. If not, we would be looking at potentially a budget workshop May 29th and with a June 10th adoption. So because we start our fiscal year July 1st. That's our New Year's Day in budget world.
New Year's Day, I like that.
So that was a lot of dates, but can you speak to a little bit about, like, is it more important, especially maybe for newish projects, to be submitted maybe now versus in May when the budget's maybe already kind of half-baked?
Yes,
Or
if
fully
it
baked?
is something that, that the public wants to see, it'd be great to have that feedback now, because those are different things that we can discuss and/or identify during you guys' council retreat, which kind of starts building that foundational framework for the upcoming budget.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none, thank you so much.
Lots of excitement.
Yes.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you for your work. All right, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for this item. No one signed up to speak tonight, so public hearing is closed. And we'll move now to public hearing number 2. Master Plan for Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources, Greenways, and Open Space, presented tonight by Angela Rinke. How you doing tonight?
Good, thank you.
Good.
Make sure it was here. All right. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Angela Ranke, Parks Planning Manager. Tonight I am presenting a public hearing for a possible motion to adopt the Master Plan for Parks, Recreation, Cultural Resources, Greenways, and Open Space. From now on, I'll call that Master Plan. In late 2021, staff began an update to the Master Plan, which had been adopted previously in 2014. The planning process included data collection and substantial public engagement, analysis of existing park and facility conditions, establishing goals, developing guiding principles and recommendations, as well as an implementation and action plan. The engagement was guided by town staff, Apex residents, town council, Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Advisory Commission, county staff, and adjacent municipality staff, among others. The master plan serves as the guide for the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Department for a 10-year planning horizon of 2023 through 2033. On May 9th, 2023, transportation plan amendments related to public greenways and street-side greenways and master plan map amendments added 2 new categories for the identification and acquisition of property for future parks and indoor recreation facilities, and they were adopted by Town Council. While the master plan was presented and discussed, the advertisement for the public hearing did not appropriately identify the adoption of the master plan. This presentation is procedural to formally adopt the master plan pursuant to the provisions of general state statutes and the Unified Development Ordinance. From May 2023 until present, staff has been actively guided by the Implementation Action Plan and have incorporated those efforts into our strategic plan and departmental goals. No changes have been made to the plan document, and this request is to adopt the plan as it was presented in 2023. Exhibits within the plan reflect conditions as they were at the time of the original presentation, which is standard for comprehensive plans. Updates to maps that are used to implement the master plan can change through the public hearing process. A public hearing was held at the January 13th Planning Board, and they unanimously recommended adoption of the master plan. This is the bicycle and pedestrian systems plan map that indicates the approved greenway and street-side greenway alignments that are associated with the master plan and were adopted in May of 2023. This plan is used by staff for making recommendations during rezonings, subdivision and site plan approval, and for requiring greenway to be constructed within developments. This map is jointly updated by Planning and Parks, Recreation, Cultural Resources when transportation plan amendments are approved. Staff review this plan quarterly to ensure it is current to the development of bicycle and pedestrian facilities. Any changes to the map from May 2023 to present has either happened as alignment shifts when development has occurred or by public hearing as a transportation plan amendment that has been approved by this council. At the Planning Board public hearing, a resident spoke to request that the Reagan Road side path be removed from the map. This is an ongoing discussion and will be reviewed with the comprehensive plan update. While staff understands and acknowledges the constraints to connect to the ATT in this location, the intent is to identify an alternative location to provide the connectivity prior to removal of the facility that's proposed in this plan. As a note, you will be reviewing the Western Big Branch Area Plan transportation amendments later this evening, and this map will be updated to reflect any approved changes that align with that plan. The future parkland and indoor facility search area map was adopted in May of 2023, and this map has not changed. This shows the 2 types of search locations for acquiring land for parks and indoor facilities for Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources. The entire master plan and these maps are published in the town's website for viewing by the public. As previously mentioned, this staff is recommending adoption of the master plan. The Parks and Recreation Cultural Resources Advisory Commission recommended adoption of the master plan. The Planning Board unanimously recommended adoption of the master plan at their January 13th meeting. And I am available for any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much, Angela. Questions? Wow, no questions. All right, thank you. Good job. All right, we'll go ahead and open up public hearing for this item, and tonight we have one speaker signed up, Lawrence Kevin.
Good evening, 1628 Salem Village Drive, Apex, North Carolina. So I'm here to talk about the bicycle and pedestrian system plan map. I was actually here at the meeting May 2023, and it's really to talk about a single line on the map. Now, why are lines important? Well, an example is the Western Main Sewer, which people I think will find out that lines can cross through their property and cut down trees and have a sewer line in their property. So lines have become important to me. So this particular line goes through Salem Village property. It's about a 20-acre parcel of land, a forested area. There's actually walkways on either side of it. I think actually Arnold brought up a case where you might need a grade crossing. Plus we have the Pequea there. So I'm just here to point out that I'm not in agreement. I think it's poorly planned, and that lines are important, and there hasn't been any, and everybody I think on this panel actually voted for the approval of it. So again, just pointing out that line. Again, it's 20 acres, it's wooded. I have a particular affinity to trees. I have a father as a forester and a grandfather. Part of the reason they became foresters because my grandfather was in World War I, wanted to be a doctor, saw enough guts that he came back and became a forester. My dad's kind of the same experience. Went to Korea War, came back, became a forester. So I have a little affinity for trees, besides putting them on a website. So again, I also think it's an infringement on property rights. I mean, it seemed like, there's no consideration for the people that live on either side. In case it is an RCA right now, an example is for now, if there's a tree that falls down, in order to cut it, we have to ask the permission from the city, and then we pay for it as an HOA. There's a tree right now, it's pointing through the house, it's gonna cost us as an HOA $2,000 to remove one tree after getting permission from the city. And then here, we're talking about putting a greenway through 20 acres, which my calculation is, it might remove 5 acres of trees. So again, it's important. It's probably the largest greenway that's gonna be, or green area that's close to the center of town. So I just want to point out it's a single line, but I just want to bring it out to make public awareness. I made a public awareness to the Salem Village, and again, we're trying to, I want public feedback, but we're trying to conserve trees. I mean, it actually backs it to my house. It's like, that's my backyard to use. TJ, it's in my backyard, right? So just pointing it out. Thank you, and I wish I was at the Apex Friendship women's game to watch Jasmine play, but I'm here instead. So that's how important it is to me.
Thank you, Mr. Kevin. All right. No more speakers signed up, so we'll go ahead and close the public hearing for this item for comment, and it's back to council for discussion leading to a possible motion. Motion approved. Motion to approve Gant. You want to say?
Second.
Second, Mayor Pro Tem. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. All right, move now to public hearing 3, 2045 Land Use Map and Transportation Plan Amendments, Western Big Branch. Jenna Schaus.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Tonight I'll be presenting the proposed amendments to the 2045 Land Use Map and Transportation Plan consistent with the adopted Western Big Branch Area Plan encompassing portions of the Friendship and New Hill communities. And now I'll go through a quick recap of the previous plan adoption timeline. So the Planning Board unanimously recommended plan adoption on November 4th, 2024. Town Council unanimously voted to adopt the plan on November 21st, 2024. And then Planning Board unanimously recommended the proposed plan amendments at their December 9th, 2024 meeting. And next I'm going to go through a series of exhibits, and the plan amendments align exactly with what was previously presented for the Western Big Branch Area Plan. So I'm not planning to go through the amendments in detail, but I can always come back to them at the end if you have any questions. So this first exhibit displays the proposed amendments to the 2045 land use map, and the number next to each amendment description corresponds with the table IDs in table 1 of your, with the IDs in table 1 of your staff report. This next exhibit displays the proposed amendments to the Thoroughfare and Collector Street Plan map. And again, the numbers next to the map amendments, the proposed map amendments, are displayed in table 2 of your staff report. And then this exhibit displays the proposed amendments to the Bicycle and Pedestrian System Plan map. And the numbers next to the amendment description are listed in under section table 3 in your staff report. And then finally, looking at the context areas map, this was included in the plan, but we didn't get into much detail on this during the last presentation. So just as a quick refresher, the context areas map separates the town into 4 context types: rural, suburban, transit-oriented development, and town center. And these contexts are used to describe the type of development style, travel mode priorities, and street design considerations. And there are 3 proposed amendments to the context areas map as part of the Western Big Branch Area Plan. The first is along New Hill Holloman Road to change the context from rural to suburban in alignment with the land use map amendment. The second is in the Bosco Road area, number 2 listed here, and that's to change the context from suburban to rural, also in alignment with the proposed land use map amendments. And finally, number 3, to change suburban to rural on both sides of Friendship Road, again to align with the proposed amendments to the land use map. So the requested motion tonight is to approve amendments to the 2045 land use map and transportation plan consistent with recommendations in the Western Big Branch Area Plan encompassing portions of the Friendship and New Hill communities. And I can try to answer any questions that you may have.
Right. Thank you so much. Appreciate all your work on this. Yes. Any questions for Ms. Schaus?
So what we're doing tonight is essentially applying the previously adopted changes onto the 2045 map. Everything the same.
Yeah, to the 2045 land use and then all the transportation block elements, yeah.
Other questions? All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
All right, we'll open up public hearing for comment. We'll start with the first speaker tonight, signed up, Dawn Casalino.
Good evening again. This is Dawn Casalino, 3632 Bosco Road. So I appreciate the opportunity to work with Jenna and Diane on the behalf of the Planning Department with Apex on their engagement with our Friendship and New Hill community on the zoning land use map. They took the role seriously. They demonstrated attention to detail and accountability to ensure that community feedback was integrated and incorporated into the proposal. I'd also like to thank my community for all their hard work, especially Elizabeth Stitt and our steering committee members, Patty, Tony Kirk, and Beth, for working long weekends and long hours to develop this comprehensive community presentation and get that petition support for our plan. While there were trade-offs on both sides, so there was things that are hard, for our community. We had a good working relationship with Apex, and we feel that we listened and heard each other. So I don't know, I didn't bring a horse trailer for this, But I just have a friend here. This is my friend. And I just wanted to tell you and show you our real life community. And this is actually pretty life size, which is kind of cool. So while Apex views connectivity kind of in a different lens, it's sidewalks and roadways, we live our connectivity through nature. And with vast surrounding tree canopy, woods, and even horseback riding trails. We're an established multi-generational community that thrives in the freedom of our beliefs. We run farms for livestock, manage farmlands and forests, and provide undisturbed habitats for a multitude of animals and birds. We all get along together. Something special I just want to leave you with tonight, since I'm Italian. The name of my road, Bosco, is Bosco Road, means, it's an Italian word. It actually means in English, forest, thicket, or woods. So we are a proud community, and we feel heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Really cool. What are you going to do with that?
I don't know.
Can I have it?
I'm gonna try to fix them and maybe put him in a horse trailer so he's safe to transport.
I hear you. Thank you. Thank you for speaking tonight. All right, Elizabeth Raystead.
Elizabeth Raystead, 3113 Friendship Road. That looks like Milo, who we had at the vet at our house till 1 o'clock last night. So when we talk about being out in nature, we're out in nature with horses all night long sometimes. I do want to thank the planning department, Jenna and Diane, for their work. I also wanted to call out their collaboration with Wake County. As a community, we really had not engaged with Wake County planning much for various reasons. And some of them were based on misconceptions. And so their cooperation and partnership with Wake County also just updated their land use for our area. They do have us as more rural than what Apex does. But I wanted to thank them for the partnership because it opened up our eyes to a few things. And as Dawn was saying, woods are really important, and I've got my forestry status finally, and I'm hoping that we can start doing something more community related with the forest. I don't know what that looks like, but I put that invitation out there. Kids love running through the woods. They love seeing the different creeks that come up. We don't have that for them. What we have for our community is manicured walkways. And if you really want to understand about the healing nature that woods bring, you need to come out where it's wild and not tame. This manicured walkway is great, it's better than a road, but it's not the same thing. So again, I want to say thank you to Jenna, particularly. She spent a lot of hours with us, and thank you for approving and adopting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll go ahead and close public hearing for comment for this item. Thank you to all speakers, and turn it back over to council for discussion leading to a possible motion.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion to approve. Mayor Pro Tem second, Zigerman. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much, everyone. All right, rezoning case number 24, CZ15, Green Level Towns PUD, presented tonight by Lawrence Stoudemire.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right, this is rezoning case 24 CZ15, Green Level Towns PUD, located at 7924 Green Level Church Road. The property is located in this general area in the northwestern part of the Apex and ETJ. The property to be rezoned is located on the east side of Green Level Church Road, north of the Greenmore subdivision, which is adjacent to HOA, common area, and single-family lots, and south of Crestmont subdivision. which is located approximately 130 feet of combined RCA and easements. The property is currently zoned rural residential, and the adjacent zonings are to the north, medium density conditional zoning, and a sliver of rural residential. To the east and south, plan unit development conditional zoning, and to the west, rural residential. The applicant is proposing to rezone the property to plan unit development conditional zoning. The 2045 land use map designates the subject property as medium density residential, and the proposed rezoning is consistent with that land use map classification. The property is approximately 6.035 acres and contains existing residential structures and two 30-foot wide electrical easements. The property is heavily vegetated in the southeastern and along the eastern property line. Along the southeastern property, there is also a stream and two wetlands, and along the eastern property line, there is a portion of the 100-foot town of Apex riparian buffer. The applicant conducted a neighborhood meeting on July 10th and December 12th. The neighborhood meeting reports are attached in your staff report packet. A full list of the proposed uses is on page 2 of the staff report. The proposed residential uses include single-family, townhouse, duplex, and accessory apartment. There is a zoning condition associated to the accessory apartment that homeowner association covenants shall not restrict the construction of accessory dwelling units. The applicant is proposing a maximum of 32 units. The PUD proposes design controls related to single-family, townhouse, duplex, and recreational facility private. The design controls can be found on page 2 of the staff report. The proposed single-family minimum lot width is 50 feet, and a minimum lot width is 5,000 square feet. And the townhouse minimum lot width is 18 feet. There are specific conditions related to the townhouse use, as you can reference on this slide. Townhouse buildings shall not include more than 4 units. Buildings shall not front Hillman Bend, and no townhouse building along Hillman Bend shall exceed 2 stories. The project requires a minimum of 30% RCA. If the development has single-family homes and is mass graded, an additional 5% RCA is required. The proposed buffers are a 15-foot type A along the northern and eastern property line, a 30-foot type B buffer along Green Level Church Road. The buffer along the southern property line is proposed to be a 15-foot type A buffer. If townhouse or duplex uses are developed, then the buffer type and width adjacent to the single-family homes may change. Around this location right here, it's proposed to be a 30-foot type B if other uses but single-family are developed. And along this area is a 50-foot type B if other uses, townhouse or duplex, are developed. This portion will stay a 15-foot type A since it's not directly adjacent to single-family. The project will be using town services. A full list of the architectural conditions can be found on page 4 of the staff report. The residential conditions are what we generally see for single-family, townhouse, and duplex. First elevation slide shows 2- and 3-story townhouses, and the second elevation slide shows duplex and single-family. To summarize the proposed transportation improvement conditions, the conditions include: the project shall dedicate right-of-way and widen the eastern half of the Green Level Church Road for the length of the property's frontage based on a 4-lane divided major thoroughfare typical section with a 10-foot side path. The project will construct Hillman Bend extension to the existing Crestmont and Greenmore Stubbs streets. If the developer proposes direct public street access to Green Level Church Road, it shall be constructed as a channelized ride-in, ride-out. If the developer does not propose direct public street access to Green Level Church Road, a temporary construction entrance shall be located on Green Level Church Road to serve construction traffic access until final subdivision plat. To summarize the pedestrian improvement conditions, the conditions include a 5-foot sidewalks on both sides of Hillman Bend extension. If single-family homes are constructed, 5-foot sidewalks on both sides of the internal neighborhood street. If townhomes and/or duplexes are constructed, a 5-foot sidewalk on one side of the internal neighborhood street. a 10-foot side path on Green Level Church Road for the length of the property's frontage. And if the project does not have driveway access onto Green Level Church Road, the developer shall construct a pedestrian connection to the side path on Green Level Church Road. The Environmental Advisory Board held a meeting with the applicant on October 17th. The zoning conditions suggested by the EAB are listed on page 8 of the staff report, along with the applicant's response to each. The PUD proposes 7 environmental conditions that can be found on page 6, such as to reduce irrigation requirements, the project shall select and plant only warm season grasses, and all homes shall be pre-configured with solar conduit. A letter of impact from Wake County Public School Systems was received for this rezoning and is included in the staff report packet. Wake County Public School Systems indicates that elementary, middle, and high schools within the current assignment area for this rezoning and development are anticipated to have insufficient capacity for future students. School expansion or construction within the next 5 years may address concerns at the middle and high school grade level. Based on the adopted 2021 Apex Affordable Housing Plan and the 2023 Affordable Housing Incentive Zoning Policy, the housing program recommends at least 5% of the residential units or lots to be designated as affordable or workforce housing. The policy recommendation applies to residential and mixed-use rezoning applications that propose 20 or more residential units. The proposed PUD does not include any affordable housing conditions at this time. The Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Advisory Commission recommends that this project will require a fee in lieu of the 2025 rates. The 2045 land use map classifies a subject property as medium density residential, which allows a density up to 7 units per acre. The proposed rezoning to plan unit development conditional zoning is consistent with the medium density residential classification. The proposed rezoning is reasonable and in the public interest because it will maintain the character and appearance of the area and provide the flexibility to accommodate the growth in population. Proposed townhouse use is generally consistent and compatible with the surrounding single-family subdivisions. The townhouse use has conditions related to front yard setbacks, architectural standards, limiting townhouse buildings to 4 units, and the townhouse height adjacent to Hillman Bend to 2 stories. The proposed rezoning provides increased buffers along the southern property to separation to the existing single-family lots to preserve the adjacent subdivision's character while providing a cohesive transition in land use types. The proposed townhouse conditions maintain compatibility with the adjacent subdivisions while providing housing type flexibility. The proposed transportation conditions are consistent with the Town of Apex Transportation Plan and Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan. The rezoning includes constructing an extension to complete Hillman Bend with sidewalks on both sides, which provides additional vehicular and pedestrian connectivity to the area. Planning Board heard this at their January 13th meeting and recommended approval by a vote of 6-3. The reasons for the dissenting votes include the scale of homes of both adjacent communities to the north and south are single detached homes, which is different from the proposed higher density townhomes. Current problems of traffic during school peak rush hours and insufficient space in schools will remain and may worsen since the timeline for widening the full length of Green Level may be 20+ years. Not having affordable housing, compatibility of the density and appearance of townhomes is incompatible with the surrounding neighborhoods. Single-family infill would fit in the area. And the ride-in or ride-out access on Green Level should be a full access, but due to existing neighborhood entrances, this is the only option. This will create more cut-through traffic into the Greenmore neighborhood routing onto Hillman Bend, then to Greenmore Path to ultimately turn left on Green Level Church Road. And planning staff does recommend approval of rezoning case 24CZ15, Green Level Towns PUD as proposed by the applicant. So I'm happy to answer any questions as well as our applicant.
Thank you. All right. Any questions for Ms. Stoudemire?
Just so I've got this clear, there are no affordable housing proposals within this?
At this time, correct. Okay. But the applicant can speak to that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, other questions?
Yeah, can you repeat for me, you said something about lots facing the road, like potentially single-family lots? Is that what I heard you say?
For the townhouse condition regarding.
You mentioned townhouse conditions, and then you went on to describe non-townhouse conditions. I just want to get that straight in my head.
Sure. So to answer the townhouse-related items, this might be better. So there's no townhouse building to include more than 4 units, and the townhouse building shall not front Hillman Bend. So they could be adjacent, but not front. And then no townhouse building along Hillman Bend shall exceed 2 stories.
Right. And what were the conditions that you described after this? I think you said something about lots and lot sizes.
With the design controls, minimum lot width for a single family is 50 feet, and the minimum lot size is 5,000 square feet.
All right, thank you. But just to be clear, the applicant is only suggesting townhomes in this location, correct?
So there are multiple residential uses, but I can also let the applicant speak to what their end component is, but there is conditions related to townhouse specifically.
Understood. So I'm looking at the Wake County report, kind of notice report that just mentions townhomes. So I see the multiple uses that would be allowed under the zoning.
Yes.
Right, but that's not the intent of what's actually being built.
I think based off my conversations and reviewing with the conditions, I believe that they are proposing townhomes specifically, but there are other additional residential uses such as single family or duplex that, depending on the development and the future, but that is the intent.
Understood. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, Mr. Carpenter.
Sorry, 2 of them.
That's okay, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Matthew Carpenter with Parker Poe, 301 Fayetteville Street, Raleigh, here this evening on behalf of the developer and property owner, Parkway Properties. And also with me this evening is Mike Hunter with Parkway Properties, the developer. As Lauren mentioned, this site is on Green Level Church Road. The developer here, I thought this is worth mentioning, is Wardson Construction. Rather, the developer is Parkway Properties, but the builder is Wardson Construction. And Wardson is a local triangle builder that's been operating in the triangle since 1985. And so these are a couple renderings of some of their single-family projects in the triangle. You can see on the left it is a relatively new home in Ellsworth that's actually just north of this particular site on Green Level Church Road. And those houses are going up now. I think Wardson has several lots in that neighborhood that they're building on. And so, just the purpose of that is that, they've been in this area for a long time, and so they are invested in Apex and the rest of the triangle for that matter. The site is sort of unusual because this area was historically rural, but it is an infill site. It's a 6-acre site sandwiched between 2 existing single-family subdivisions, Crestmont and Greenmore. And as you'll see in a moment, the site's location really informed a lot of the conditions that we've added. Staff, informed us at the very beginning of this process that was important, and we had to focus on a transition in land uses given the sort of lower density context of the surrounding area. As Lauren mentioned, the land use map designation is medium density residential. You see Green Level Church Road is sort of the dividing line between lower density west of Green Level Church and then medium density on the land use map east of Green Level Church Road. And so, taking into consideration the site's location between the existing neighborhoods, the land use map designation, which calls for townhomes up to 7 units an acre, this is our PUD plan, and it proposes up to 32 units on a 6-acre site, which comes out to right at 5.3 units an acre, well within the land use map recommendation. And so we are consistent with the land use map. The compatibility issue is something, again, that we spent a lot of time on during staff review. All of the conditions you see in orange were specifically added to try to make sure that these townhomes are compatible with those existing neighborhoods. The first thing that we did was widen the buffers along the southern property line. The northern property line is not as big of an issue because it does have that HOA common area and RCA to the north, which provides a separation. Along the south, everywhere that we are adjacent to existing single-family lots, we've widened the buffer. So a 30-foot type B buffer in the bottom left of your screen, adjacent to those two existing lots, which is twice the required buffer width, and then a 50-foot type B buffer on the other side, adjacent to Greenmore. And so with those buffers, we've tried to create a transition, at the bottom of the site as you come up Hillman Bend and drive into the site on Hillman Bend. We've also added massing conditions. You can see that no townhome building will front on Hillman Bend. And the thinking there was that, as folks drive through Greenmore North along Hillman Bend, it won't be such a stark contrast as you move from single family to townhomes. And sort of in that same vein, we also added the condition that no townhome building will have more than 4 units. And so again, that's a massing concern so that you didn't have 8-10 unit townhome buildings that really stand out among the existing development pattern surrounding the site. And so I know the affordable housing question came up, and really the challenge with doing affordable housing in these smaller projects, it's simply a math issue, because to provide a for sale affordable unit, you're talking often $100,000, $200,000 per unit. And in this particular case, I think you can contrast it some to the next case we'll have. There are significant infrastructure improvements here with a relatively small 32-unit townhome development. We've got the Hillman Bend extension, which you can see Crestmont and Greenmore stubbed Hillman Bend to the north and south of us, but those projects stop short of our property line. You can see that they stop approximately where the red line is shown. And so we're moving on to the adjacent property in the right-of-way and extending that street and sidewalk to connect to the north and south. And so I know you see these cases all the time where we come in and we're providing stub streets to adjacent property. I think this is a rare case where we actually get to connect to that have been left from previous cases. So that will provide sidewalk connectivity to the north to get to the existing Greenway Trail. And then that extension is in addition to the widening on Green Level Church Road, which will go from a 2-lane to a 4-lane section for the length of our property frontage with a 10-foot side path. And so to the connectivity questions, as we often do in these projects, we've looked at connectivity in the surrounding area, and we're picking up the 10-foot side path south of us and extending it for the length of our frontage. There is a gap from the northern property line of our site all the way to Cobbleton Way. And so we looked at the feasibility of constructing that off-site side path to make that connection. And so that construction would be roughly where the yellow dotted line is. We ran into several issues when we looked at doing that. The full length of that connection would be about a 1/4 mile. And I have a case in Raleigh right now where there's a 1/4 mile greenway that's being constructed, and the cost estimate was $1 million. And that's not to say that would be the exact estimate here, but asphalt's expensive, acquisition of right-of-way is expensive, and so even without these other issues I'll get to in a moment, it's cost prohibitive for a project of this size. And then the other issue is that it's practically infeasible. We looked at where right-of-way would be required to build the path. And the area shown in orange, the crosshatched area in orange, is Crestmont HOA common area. So that's where we would need the right-of-way. And I reviewed the Crestmont Declaration of Covenants, and there's a statement in there that says that the common area shall not be conveyed or sold. So that doesn't mean that there's 100% no way to do it. But it does state it pretty clear in the declaration, and so I think we're up against a legal constraint there. And then finally, even absent that connection, the project improves overall connectivity in this area. We will construct the 10-foot side path for the length of our frontage. We're building sidewalks internal to the site, and we'll connect to the existing greenway. So you can see the greenway shown in the green line that goes all the way to Cobbleton Way. So residents of our project and of the adjacent subdivisions will be able to follow the greenway to get to Cobbleton Way where the 10-foot side path continues. And in an effort to sort of understand why, Crestmont didn't provide the side path on Green Level Church Road, I did see in the UDO that there's some language about greenways being constructed in lieu of sidewalks. And so I defer to staff, obviously, but my presumption is that was cited during that case to provide the greenway connection to Cobbleton rather than the side path. So that's a long way of saying we looked at the feasibility of this, and it's really difficult to make it work for this project. But even with that, the project is consistent with the land use map. It's compatible with the existing neighborhoods, and it'll include construction of important infrastructure. We've spent a lot of time trying to make sure that we're respectful here of the adjacent neighborhoods, and so for those reasons, we respectfully ask for your approval. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there any questions for Mr. Carpenter?
I have a couple. So what's the purpose of the elevations shown in the presentation earlier and in the staff reports, like single-family homes? You started the presentation with a picture of a single-family home. This is 100% condo development, or townhome development, right?
That's correct. So
why are we showing pictures of non-townhome?
Those were just examples of other nearby neighborhoods that the developer has worked on.
Can we agree that they're completely irrelevant to this development?
Well, yes, but as we discussed before, the single family is a permitted use under the PUD.
Right, but there's no intention of actually.
That's correct. That's correct. This is a townhome development.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just want to be perfectly clear on that.
Right.
All right.
Other questions?
Just a couple of questions. So, you, Mr. Carpenter, you've been here before us several times. So you're familiar with our affordable housing plan.
That's right.
And as you know, within the affordable housing plan, there are things that are basically acknowledged as incentives to encourage developers, if they're asking for a petition for a rezoning, to incentivize them for the implementation of affordable housing. So you're familiar with that?
Yes.
You're also familiar with the fact that we're at a pretty dire state in terms of the price of housing within the country, as well as our town, as we stand before each other today, correct?
Yes.
Yet you give us a proposal that doesn't look like you've accounted for our affordable housing plan and doesn't provide even for one affordable house. And you want us to say yes because?
I think the affordable conversation is more complicated than that. I think the alternative between, I think you have to look at the alternative between the proposed zoning and the existing zoning. The existing zoning only allows large lot single-family homes, even if there aren't capital A affordable housing units set aside as part of this project. The construction of townhomes bring a different product type to Apex, to this area where it doesn't exist today. I know there are some townhomes here, which by nature helps affordability because they're smaller units and add an additional housing type. And so I think if this case were denied and it became a 1 to 2 acre lot subdivision, those homes would be upwards of $1.52 million a piece. So it's trying to add to the housing supply with these infill sites in a way that adds gentle density, that isn't offensive or otherwise disruptive to existing neighborhoods. The problem again with the setting aside a unit is the way that AMI is calculated for the for sale affordable price. And that's the issue we ran into in this project. And some projects can absorb that have fewer infrastructure costs. But this one, it was difficult to absorb an affordable unit.
And as you know, we've made concessions with regard to our affordable housing plan in the past when there have been other factors that more or less override a lot of those things and provide significant resources or benefit to the community. I mean, in this case, you touted that you'd be able to complete a stub street, but my understanding of our transportation plan is if something goes in there, that's going to get done, right? So I guess what I'm still trying to wrap my head around is you have 36 units and you can't provide one unit that a fireman can live in? You've got 36 units and you can't provide one for a teacher? You've got 36 units. I don't know how much money that's going to net the builder overall. It's not my concern, but 36 units, our affordable housing plan would essentially require how many?
Two.
Suggest.
Yeah, suggest two. And you can't meet us halfway. All right, thank you.
I got another follow-up question, completely different. How long exactly is the frontage of your property on Green Level Church?
I don't have the exact dimension. I don't know if it's on this plan. I don't know if the civil engineer is here and has someone here. Here, come on up. Yeah.
Salman Moza with Urban Design Partners, address 150 Fayetteville Street, Raleigh. There's no scale on it.
Looks to be 366 feet of frontage.
Yeah, it's
Councilmember
about
Zagerman. Yeah.
It's 400 feet or so.
So quick math, that's 0.07 miles.
I'm sorry, say that again. Oh, to miles.
0.07 miles.
Right.
Okay. I mean, you talked a lot about infrastructure improvements, but like, you know, kind of putting that in perspective, you're talking a very small section of road that we're really would see improvement on, and then the extension of the 10-foot path, you know, of only 300 feet, right? In context, right? Like, how material is that truly for us as a town, right? So, just wanted to kind of get clarity on what we're looking at here in terms of scale.
And if I can add to that, I make that observation as well, Matt. Like you mentioned a few times about the infrastructure costs here and how that was difficult to absorb. Can't do other stuff, affordable housing, it's all difficult. I can understand that. But eyeballing this doesn't look like it has any more infrastructure costs than any other project before us. It's normal stuff. You're connecting a road, but everyone builds roads. We have to build roads. You're building a side path along your frontage and expanding. Everyone does it all the time. Yeah. You're here frequently. We're here frequently. We see this. This seems to me, in my measure of it, to be pretty routine infrastructure costs. So I'll just say I'm unconvinced at your argument that this project itself represents something onerous beyond what we usually see.
Yeah, that's fair. I think, again, the contrast between a lot of the other projects is the size of the project. And so, you know, to your point, Councilmember Zagerman, you're right. You look at it and it's like, this is not a lot of frontage. You know, we have projects that have, you know, quarter mile of improvements. You know, often those projects are for 100, 200 single-family homes or, you know, 200 apartment units. This is a much smaller infill site. And so you know, even though they're small in comparison to other projects that you see on your agenda frequently, they're not small for this particular development. And so, you know, that's why the conversation is different. And you know, so that's not to say that they're, you know, if you compare them apples to apples, that, you know, they're not going to be more than a 400-unit subdivision. But for this particular project, you know, likely as a percentage, they are significant.
And so I'll buy that argument to some extent, right? But the reality is that, you know, we too are running out of developable land, and we're going to see more and more of these kinds of size developments versus, you know, the 200 to 400 unit developments we've seen in years past, right? And so The needs of the town, however, have not changed, right? We still look for infrastructure improvements as well as, addressing our housing affordability issue in various ways. What bothers me about this is that there is very little apparent attempt to satisfy any of those needs. Like there's virtually no commitments as far as the Environmental Advisory Board's recommendations, other than a sign here, Petway Station, and drought-resistant grasses and so forth. Right? There's no commitment towards affordable housing. There is, very little commitment towards infrastructure improvements beyond, connecting a road that would run through the property. So I'm just not, like my colleague Mahavi, I'm just not convinced that the argument cited around affordability of some of these things is really holding water.
Understood, and if council would like us to spend more time discussing affordable options, we are open to that too.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, let's go ahead and open up the public hearing. This item, we have one speaker tonight. I think it's Banu Gills. Is that right? Yes, sir.
Good evening, this is Bhanu Jilla. I live on in 446 Hillman Bend, Apex. The concerns that I had were already shared, so I do not have anything else to add. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for coming out to speak to that. All right, public hearing is closed for comment, and it's back to council for further discussion.
I have to make a correction to what I said earlier.
Yes.
I said they couldn't build one house for a fireman, and I meant to say firefighter. And police officer.
I appreciate
that. And emergency. And the reason why I need to make that correction is because words matter. And the words that we put within that affordable housing plan, in my opinion, matter. So I am not in favor of this, and I'll be voting no.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to hear more on whether affordable housing could be committed to at this point.
Yeah, I concur. We talked about this offline. I think another comment I wanted to respond to you made earlier about us comparing this to the existing zoning, and I do think that's a reasonable thing to look at. We also have to compare this to any potential future zoning that could arrive here that may be a better use and more aligned with the town's plans. So,
thank you, Councilman. Anyone else? Hearing none, Mr. Carpenter.
Sure, yeah, we'd like to request a deferral to the next meeting so that we can discuss, potential affordable housing commitments. We spent some time doing that, but it's a tight turnaround between planning board and this meeting, so we'd appreciate the extra time.
I'd like to hear from staff on it.
So the next town council meeting, I think, is February 11th. Is that what you're trying to go to? Okay.
I'll make a motion to defer this to February 11th.
Motion, Councilwoman Killingsworth.
I'll second.
Second, Mayor Pro Tem Gray. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. It's continued to February 11th. Thank you. Also, I want to recognize Scouting America Troop 2051. Thank you for being here tonight. All right, we'll move to our final public hearing file, rezoning case 24CZ17, Kelly Road Townhomes. Mr. Joshua Killian, how you doing tonight, sir?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone, or evening. I'm Joshua Killian with the Planning Department, here to present rezoning case 24CZ17, Kelly Road Townhomes. Matthew Carpenter is here on behalf of the applicant. This rezoning is located along Kelly Road between its intersections with Holland Road to the north and Old US 1 to the south. The land to be rezoned totals almost 6 acres across 2 single-family parcels with streams and mature trees located on the site. The current zoning of the property is residential agricultural. The land to the south and east are zoned planned unit development conditional zoning and have been developed as townhomes as part of the West Village planned unit development. The zoning to the north is a continuation of rural agricultural, and to the west across Kelly Road is both residential agricultural and rural residential. The applicant is proposing to rezone the parcels to high-density, single-family conditional zoning. The applicant held 3 neighborhood meetings for this rezoning on September 12th, November 12th, and November 27th of 2024. Those agendas are in your packet, those reports are in your packet. The rezoning case was heard by the Environmental Advisory Board on November the 14th, 2024, and the applicant has offered 3 of the 4 zoning conditions that were requested. Those include allocations for EV charging and solar conduit. The Town of Apex housing staff recommended 5% of total ownership units be dedicated towards affordable housing at 135% of the area median income for the Raleigh MSA for a 20-year affordability period. The applicant has declined to offer those a zoning condition related to affordable housing. A Wake County Public Schools letter of impact was received for this rezoning case and indicates that elementary and high school grade levels in the current assignment area is anticipated to have insufficient capacity for future students. School expansion or construction within 5 years may address concerns at both the elementary and high school grade levels. All architectural zoning conditions provided in this rezoning are consistent with those provided in the West Village PUD. This includes provisions for townhomes, single-family, and duplex housing types, even though the intent of this rezoning is to build townhomes. As mentioned before, streams are located on this tract of land. This environmental feature coincides with the elevation changes that are on the land and is referenced in the transportation zoning condition. This zoning condition requires right-of-way dedication along Kelly Road based on a 4-lane divided roadway section with a total of 110 feet of right-of-way and 5-foot sidewalk and bike lanes, consistent with the Town of Apex bicycle and pedestrian plan map. Recognizing the streams will require U.S. Army Corps of Engineers or other permitting body approval for disturbance, a fee in lieu would be required for the road widening if the requirements of the condition cannot be met. 5-foot sidewalks are being proposed on both sides of the internal streets to match and continue what has been provided in the connecting West Village PUD. Also, with consideration of any environmental impacts, the developer shall provide a stub street to the property identified by PEN and illustrated on the screen to the north in a location to be determined during master subdivision plan and construction plan review. The 2045 land use map identifies these parcels as being within a community mixed-use activity center. The use classification for the properties are mixed-use, high-density residential, office employment, and commercial services. The proposed zoning district is not allowed within the high-density residential classification. Therefore, if this rezoning is approved as submitted by the applicant, the 2045 land use map will automatically update to designate the land as medium-high density residential. This rezoning was heard by the planning board on their January 18th meeting and was unanimously recommended for approval with conditions. The planning board recommended that the applicant revisit conversations with housing staff to discuss alternative zoning conditions related to affordable housing. And the other recommendation was directed towards staff to enhance the statement of consistency to provide information regarding environmental features on the site that make including commercial services prohibitive to the rezoning, thus requiring a land use map amendment to remove those designations. Planning staff recommends approval of rezoning case 24CZ17 with the conditions as submitted by the applicant, as it is reasonable in the public interest to maintain and continue the residential density that is provided in the West Village PUD. Any questions from me?
Thank you, Mr. Killian. Any questions?
Just one question. How many affordable housing units are within this, this proposal?
At present, 0.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Mr. Carpenter, come on up.
Good evening again. Matthew Carpenter with Parker Poe, 301 Fayetteville Street. Here on behalf of the property owner and applicant. Also with me is Jeff Roach with Peak Engineering, our civil engineer. Just to answer that question on the front end, we are committing to one affordable unit at 135% AMI, and I have that language here to share with staff following the presentation. So as as Joshua mentioned, the land use map here is mixed use, and in all these cases, we take council's guidance to heart about changing mixed use designations to residential. And so when I initially looked at this site, I was concerned about that. But after speaking with staff and discussing the area and the West Village PUD, we came to the conclusion with planning staff that residential here is more appropriate than the medium density residential is more appropriate than the high density residential and commercial uses that are shown on the land use map. And that's for several reasons. The first is the existing stream that we have that runs parallel with Kelly Road. You can see, it really eats up the majority of our Kelly Road frontage, and practically that sort of prohibits any visibility for any commercial development that could go here. The next reason that makes sense is the existing West Village PUD has been built out around us. You can see just on the right of your screen there that those townhomes have been developed out, and there are two stub streets, going to our property. And so we view this project as a natural extension of that development. It wouldn't be appropriate here, based on discussions with staff and with neighbors, to put high density or high intensity commercial uses right in the backyards of those townhomes. And so instead, what we're proposing is a 30 townhome project with architectural conditions that were taken directly from the West Village PUD. And so they'll be compatible in size and scale and character with the existing townhomes in the area. And then the third justification for the land use map change is the commercial entitlement in the West Village PUD. Just to the southwest of here on the west side of Kelly Road, there is 500,000 square feet of commercial entitlement that was approved as part of the West Village PUD. To my knowledge, none of that has developed yet, but it is permitted, and those uses are permitted there. And so basically what the West Village PUD did was place where the mix of uses were to go based on the community mixed use land use map designation. So by extending the residential area here, we're trying to honor those original plans and the land use map designation. So this is a slightly different case than the last because it's a conditional rezoning rather than a PUD. We're asking for the high density single family district, but that's a little bit confusing because we're not proposing high density. We've limited our density to 30 residential units, which comes out to 5 units an acre, which is considered medium density residential. We had to ask for high density because for whatever reason, townhomes aren't permitted in the medium density zoning district. So to get townhomes, we had to go to high density and then condition it down to the medium density designation. So we have a max of 30 residential units, architectural conditions that came from the West Village PUD, environmental conditions, right-of-way dedication and road widening on Kelly Road, and then 5-foot sidewalks. Again, if you watch the planning board meeting, the motion, the recommendation that planning board made was subject to the applicant, working with affordable housing staff. We did have a meeting with affordable housing staff in the last 2 weeks, and since that meeting, we've added one for sale affordable housing unit. And so that language that I'll hand to Joshua in a moment was taken from other for sale units that have been approved in Apex. And so that unit will be restricted, a deed restriction will be recorded, and then those buyers vetted upon the first sale. And so to summarize the case, the project is a natural extension of the existing townhomes. The land use map change is justified based on that context. And then with the affordable commitment, we've addressed, or at least tried to address, the one outstanding issue that came out of planning board. And so for those reasons, we respectfully request your approval.
All right, thank you, Mr. Carpenter.
Mr. Carpenter, can I ask you a question before you go down, sit down? We had a conversation about two additional issues besides affordable housing. One was the connectivity to what appears to be a sidewalk that stops before the property line here to the
Right.
south. Can you address that?
I can, yeah, and so just for everyone's benefit, the question is about this area here. The West Village PUD, the phases that came before us, didn't complete that sidewalk connection there, likely because of the existing stream. We did reach out to staff and ask whether a fee in lieu was paid that we could use to go offsite, make that connection, and there is no fee in lieu on file. And so, you know, we really don't have the ability, you know, even if we could get the Army Corps approval to cross that stream to make the connection. So unfortunately, there's not much to do there. Also talked to transportation staff about the transit easement and potential stop.
Yeah.
And the concern there is the riparian buffer. So, you know, we basically have riparian buffer along our entire frontage. And so, you know, talking with Jeff Roach, we're concerned about the ability to build a stop in that riparian buffer. Even if we can justify the riparian impacts for the widening, you know, we're unsure if we can justify them for the stop. So that's not to say we won't do it, but I can't make it a zoning condition because, you know, we don't know what the riparian buffer impact will be there of a stop.
But the sidewalk, the bus stop won't require any needs further to the east, correct? It would be mostly connecting it to the road from the sidewalk. That's the main.
I was under the impression it would be to the east of the sidewalk on our property. The other conditions had read that it was on the subject property. So
that didn't make sense to me because the bus is going to stop at the road. It's not going to go in further.
Russell, you want?
Right?
Yeah.
Hello. Yes, you are correct. Just for concrete, just for a landing pad, you don't need to go behind the right of way. The difference is if you need to put any amenities out there, a shelter, a bench, trash can, anything like that, would need to go behind the sidewalk. So in that case, we would need an easement.
Okay, so the extra stuff
down the right of way. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Russell, can I just ask you? So, if approved, and nothing in the condition of the zoning about connecting that sidewalk, are we going to have a 20-foot sidewalk gap permanently, potentially, at the spot? Unless there's funding from the town?
Yeah, and even if there is funding from the town, again, we don't know what the potential buffer impacts are and if it can be permitted. So we do have language in the proposed zoning that they've accepted that the roadway frontage widening is subject to permitting. If you wanted that sidewalk extension, you could certainly ask for that to be part of the extension subject to permitting. As they've said, you know, we didn't collect a fee in lieu at the time the other previous development was done. That doesn't mean they can't commit to doing the extension. There's just no reimbursement on file toward that.
That seems sloppy because it's new. How could that have happened?
Yeah, I don't recall offhand. At that time, for a lot of development plans, we were not requiring ultimate widening. So if there weren't specific conditions in the zoning, you know, if it it may have been a condition where it just wasn't recorded that way.
Okay.
And even when we do, and that's another point to make, even when we do collect fee in lieu, it rarely covers the cost of future improvements when it's done, because very quickly, you know, inflation makes it to the point where those fee in lieu reimbursements are relatively small compared to what the actual construction cost is.
I understand that. That's why it's better to build it, but okay. Yeah. Thank you.
It looks to me, I drive by this area every day, Brett, like it's kind of complicated where there's a stream there, it's an active stream, and there's a culvert underneath both Kelly Road and wherever that road is in the development. Eva Pearl, yeah, so there's a culvert under Eva Pearl and it looks like a pretty significant, good looking retaining wall. So there's been a lot of work in the area. I think really what has to happen, probably has to be a bridge over the stream, right? Like a wooden bridge or something.
Small thing, right, yeah.
And then I don't think it's possible to, unless you could, I don't know, build another retaining wall and extend the culvert out and pave over it. So certainly a big project that we have to figure out how to do.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Dahl.
I would also like to just let it be known that the housing staff is present in case you have any questions about the condition or anything else related to affordable housing.
Mr. Killian, before you go, I have a question for you, I think you'd ask. When we look at the land use map with the stripes, and then there are several properties like this that are kind of not included in the West Village but are still in that three-striped category. What's the concern of staff that if we do these piecemeal, we'll eventually run out of the commercial part that we really want some of in this area? And is there some value and wisdom in converting the northern part of this parcel between Apex Barbecue and Kelly Road and 540 to be non-residential, to avoid at least it creeping up to that northern part?
So I'll begin by just stating that the West Village PUD, within the mixed use area, it's recommended that 30% of all land be dedicated towards the non-residential portions. The West Village PUD has reserved 34%.
I read that, yes.
So that offsets this property and would probably offset the individual parcels that are intervening on the West Village PUD that go between old US 1 to the south and this property to the north that would allow.
Yeah, I saw that, and I thought maybe it would get down to 30 if we do all those residential. I worry that the next time the one in the north here is going to come in at residential too, and then we're just going to not having mixed use in this area, at least to the north of this site.
Mr. Gannon, staff was looking at this. We did consider, the existing land use classification, but given the environmental features on the frontage parcel and the development pattern to the south and the east, we felt that we were comfortable with the residential for this parcel. As you know, we look at every rezoning individually. As far as the future land use map designation for the parcels to the north up to Apex Barbecue Road, they are all striped as mixed use, requiring 30% non-residential. And we're about to embark on a comprehensive plan update where we can get community input on what the land use map should show for those parcels, so we can get input from both the public and from council as well during that process.
Does the future roundabout on Holland, right just to the north, would that be more suggestive of commercial near that roundabout, like we've seen in maybe on Tingen and some other places?
I don't know that that's necessarily roundabouts exist in residential areas as they do in commercial areas.
Yeah.
So
maybe.
I can't really say what impact that should or would have.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kelly. All right, we'll go ahead and open up public hearing for comment. We have one speaker tonight, Don Cozzolino. Please step up.
Dawn Cozzolino, 3632 Bosco Road. So this is a great example of a project that's on an island. So I talk about traffic all the time, and the traffic situation is very bad, right? We heard somebody tonight talk about that. These projects aren't taken as part of the network, right? The whole transportation network. So my key questions tonight are, where does the traffic go? How are the roads of Apex Barbecue and Kelly Road and Old US 1 impacted? And again, I'll bring up what I've always been keen to ask is, why aren't we doing more traffic impact analyses? We don't do them because I know the volume, but let me give you an example of what's going on with Depot 499. Okay, huge development, huge. There was a TIA done, now it's very dated, 6 years back. Okay, and it used very low growth numbers of 3%, so, taking into that, they did model, though, a lot of they call them background developments, so your West Village, your Pleasant Park, all those developments in the area, right? They consider that. They model it, they add it to it. And they did some studies, and they said that West Village is eventually going to have to shut down that Kelly Road left turn. So a couple of things are going to happen. Now, we're not at the point where we're actually widening any roads, right? If you look at the NCDOT map, I mean, they're like 2050 maybe, and they have to be funded and approved. But so nothing's happening right now, but we're adding, right? So I just want to tell you from the study, and they did the study way back when, the daily in a 24-hour day, how many new trips are going to result from that Depot 499. Now, you know where that is, right? Old US 1, 540, Apex Barbecue, that whole little section that right across the road from that. 1.6 miles away. It's going to add new vehicle trips of 26,770. And this site has a school cap. So I'm going to do more study and analysis into all these TIAs because that's astounding numbers and we just don't have the roads for it. And I don't even know what's going to be done for Depot 499. But thank you very much.
Ms. Gasolino. All right, public hearing for comment is closed. It's back to council for discussion. Lean to a possible motion.
Actually, I have a question for the housing staff regarding the extra condition that was just offered. What was the suggestion from the housing staff as far as the affordability or including affordable housing in this plan?
What was our recommendation?
Yes.
What the housing recommendation? It was 5% at 135% of the AMI.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Discussion?
Motion to approve. I think you know why.
Motion to approve, Mayor Pro Tem.
I just want to make a comment. So I do appreciate. So first of all, I'm typically the first one to rail against any changes to the land use map, and so this is clearly a change. But I also believe that given the conditions on this site, the change from or not including commercial in the site is sensible. So I think that given the conditions of the site, the number of units that can be built, due to the riparian buffers, right? This is probably the right zoning and the right number of units considering the area. I do want to address the affordable housing piece. So I do appreciate the applicant including the staff recommendation of 5% of 30 units, right? It comes out to anywhere between 1 and 2 units to include 1 unit at 135% of AMI. I do want to remind people though that 135% of AMI translates to about an annual income of about $155,000. Which is about $13,000 a month, assuming a maximum housing expense of 30%. That gets you to about $3,900 to be spent on housing, right? Run that through the all-knowing internet, right? Your housing affordability is north of $600,000, right? So even though we are putting a affordable housing restriction here, it doesn't really help the audience that we're trying to target, with affordable housing, right? And so given that condition, given the type of product being built, right, the developer is really not, there's really no skin off their back on this one, right? Because if they can sell a unit for $600,000, like a townhome, right, they're not giving up anything. So I just want to call that out. I do appreciate the inclusion, right? I do appreciate that based on planning board recommendation there is a concession made. I just don't think it is terribly meaningful in terms of housing affordability and our long-term needs around town.
Thank you so much, Councilman. Okay, all right. Anyone else?
I concur with Arno. So I'm going to vote against this proposal. The recommendation is 5%. 1 unit out of 30 is 3%. 3 is less than 5. 3,005. Right. So my other issue here, besides the affordable unit, I mean, coming close is tree canopy. This site, unlike the previous one, is 100% covered. And I think that if you're developing a parcel that has 100% tree coverage, I think you have some responsibility to create some condition. I mean, there's some flexibility there in what you can do. Previously, we've had people donate to tree planting charities around town. I obviously have to clear some trees to make houses. But this is one of those sites where I think I would have appreciated a condition that went above and beyond in order to address the canopy cover here.
Any other discussion?
I'm not going to vote for a project that leaves a 20-foot sidewalk gap somewhere nearby. So that just seems ridiculous to me, even if it's complicated.
I would like to add two quick things. First, going back to the recommended condition and the condition that's offered. The recommended condition was for 20 years. This condition is for 30 years. Just wanted to note the nuance of this condition, and also that in the motion to include the added condition, just to ensure that that's included. Thank you.
So I amend my motion to add the included conditions as proposed by the applicant.
Here's my suggestion to Councilmember Zingerman's point. I think for these developments to get significant number of affordable units, we need to just build different units. I would like to see proposals that come forward with conditions to allow the affordable units to be at a lower price point by having different architectural conditions, smaller setbacks, smaller square footage, like literally a different type of unit to make them more affordable, and have a development which has 15 or 20% affordable, and those units that are affordable are just, we work with conditions to make them more and more doable. I think that's the only way to make significant progress, in my opinion, especially if we're going to see more of these where they're smaller sites and they're, we're trying to get one house here, two houses there. We need to get a higher percentage.
Mr. Carpenter.
So just a couple points to Councilor Zagerman's point. I believe there may be a disconnect between the math with the unit, because our calculations are that 135% AMI is resulting in about $400,000 for an affordable unit. And I think, I don't know, but I think the difference is probably utilities, the down payment assumption, and the interest rates. And those are all assumptions that I took from the affordable housing staff guidance, on what an assumption is for a for sale unit. So, there may be some discussion there, but that's just to say that, our internal.
Let it be $400,000, yeah. Right? What is the price point of the units that you're planning to develop?
It'll be 3 years from now. So
give me a range.
I'd say 500 to 650, and I'm not the builder, but I'm just estimating based on the neighboring subdivision. So that's where we're getting the $100,000 to $200,000 a unit number, and I think that's consistent too with I went through with housing staff what fee in lieu would look like, and a fee in lieu for 2 affordable units here would be $450,000.
Let's be clear here, right? Like you talk about sales price, that is not your cost price. Right, so if you build a unit and you sell it for $600,000,
right, that's right.
You're not costing. That's not a $600,000 cost. Yes, you leave some profit on the table. I get that, right? But in terms of the the cost to build versus the sale price, right? I think we're still very close, even with a $400,000 unit, right. At 135 AMI. Yeah. So I just want to call out that we're talking about things like affordable housing, right, and income restricted housing at 135% of AMI, right. It is not doing much for our town staff, our firefighters, our store clerks, the people that serve us in the restaurants and so forth, right? And those are the ones that have the hardest time finding affordable housing in the town of Apex. And so, again, I appreciate the concession made, right? I just, trying to put that in perspective a little bit.
Yeah, and we can, to your point, Councilmember Mahaffey, if it would help, we can take some time and look at the two issues you raised, the tree canopy, and the different size units. We did discuss that, as a development team, but it was sort of, do you go that direction or do you commit to an affordable unit? And we went for the affordable unit. So, we can look at trying to set aside some different unit sizes But I do think that would take some more time, and we can't do that
So,
tonight.
so to be clear, when I say different size units and different development rules, the intention is to be able to then commit to a higher percentage based on
I
those
see.
new rules. So you would say, if you let us do this, this, or this, or vary from the UDO in such a way, we'd be able to build 10% affordable. And we'd all go, great, 10% sounds awesome. And that's what it takes, that's what it takes.
And so there was a recent rezoning request for a property along Center Street that did exactly that, where the units were built without garages, for example, right? It was a much more affordable unit by design of the construction, right? And so I think, you know, just to kind of put that out there, like that I think is kind of the architectural conditions that, you know, Mr. Mahaffey is looking for.
All right, great discussion. We have a motion. Mr. Carpenter, do you have anything you want to provide before?
Again, we'd welcome additional time to look into both those issues that Councilmember Mahaffey raised.
I'm happy to give additional time. I'm not sure how the rest of the council members,
I'm fine with that. I didn't hear the motion being seconded, okay. Then I'd like to make a motion to continue at a future date.
I'll second that.
All right, have a
February 11th? Is that sufficient?
Yes, we can come back and continue.
Can we go ahead and push it out to the second meeting in February, please? The
25th then.
25th.
Just to allow more time for
Motion
discussion.
second, continue to the 25th of February.
Second?
Second, yes.
So motion and then you second?
I'll
That's
second.
correct. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, motion carries 4-1.
I would like to say that I appreciate that these conversations are being had again, because we have not had these types of conversations in a long time. So,
Thank you, everyone, for the discussion. I think that is the last item we have. I do want to recognize Mr. Bossberg, your staff, for all the work to get us here. There's a lot that goes into preparing for a council meeting. Mr. Coleman, you, Ashley, and JP, appreciate your work, and Ms. Hoey, always appreciate everything you do. And of course, presence tonight for security, Sergeant Short, thank you for being here. So with that,
preparation for the weather that we had pretty recently.
oh yeah,
Awesome
great job, great job. All right. Any other business? All right, hearing none. All right, Mr. Adjourned, thank you. 8:17, I said 8:15.